Hey guys, probably fair to put this video on our Wheels in Japan playlist. Start of the school year. So one of the things that happens at the start of the school year in the junior high schools and high schools is the bicycle inspection, right? So we're sort of lucky. Some of the schools specify which bicycle that the students have to have, and in that case, this one wouldn't make it, because even though it's an excellent bike and it wasn't cheap, sometimes the schools will actually specify you have to have a Bridgestone, whatever it is, right? Some people have suggested there must be some kickbacks going on when you get whole schools dictating what brand and what style of bike to buy. We don't know why they do it, but that's what they do. It's a sort of, we'd imagine it's more about conformity. Everybody has to have the same, you know. So the Bridgestone version, we showed you a long time ago on a video, the Bridgestone bike that a lot of the schools specify, and it's about $800 by the time you get all the accessories and everything else you've got to get. Sometimes you could spend $1,000 on the bicycle, right? And we weren't sure if we're going to have to do the same thing. And the shame is that a bike like this is virtually the same. I mean, this is a well-made bike. It's a quality bike. It's virtually the same as the Bridgestone version. But if they specify the Bridgestone, it means you couldn't take this to school, which means you'd have to go and spend $800 or $1,000 on the bike that they specify, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? So we were lucky. This junior high school has just given a list of features that the bicycle has to have to be approved. So, working brakes front and back, and a bell and lights and reflectors and all that sort of stuff. So they just give us a checklist, and if your bike conforms to all those things, you're allowed to have it, which is really good. We're really happy about that. Some of you might have also seen photos we took ages ago. Actually, we took one at a train station and we took another one actually at a high school. And there were like, 200 bikes all in a row and all exactly the same. And it's sort of, it's really reflective. We notice the kids here that are elementary school kids usually have sort of their own personality a bit, They're all a little bit different, like kids usually are, and you get your funny kids and your introverted kids and your athletic kids and your nerds and all the different sorts of kids. But once they get to junior high school, the system really pushes this sameness, the robotic thing where everybody's the same and everybody has the same stuff and everybody dresses the same, has the same haircut. The dress codes for junior high school, the hair, they've got options. If the girls have short hair, it has to be off the ears, and it has to be off. If they've got long hair, it has to be in a ponytail. It's all very specified. So when you see a group of junior high school kids or high school kids, depending on the high school, I mean, it does vary, but generally they all look exactly the same, because they're told that their hair has to be a certain. They've got this option or that option basically for their haircuts. No colouring. Generally, I mean, there are some radical schools that you do see some students sometimes that are different, but it's pretty rare. Usually, it's all about conformity, and you can have that haircut or that haircut, and you can have that bicycle. And usually, if they specify the bike like a Bridgestone, usually everybody gets a black one. And those photos that we've showed you, there's 200 black bicycles all in a row looking exactly the same. And they sort of, it gets to the point where they push this so much right from the start, and Japanese society is so much like that the kids prefer that. The kids don't really want to be different, and they don't want to have a different coloured bike. I think the Bridgestone ones come in black or silver or white. But usually everybody gets the black one. Everyone has the black one. And everyone wears the same helmet. There's these ridiculous helmets. We actually showed you these ones before too. These ridiculous helmets. Nowhere in the world will you'll see a bicycle helmet like that, right? Usually bicycle helmets extend out the front to protect your face, and they come down further down the back to protect the back of your head. This is basically, it's padded inside, but it's basically like a workman's helmet, isn't it? That's going to protect you from something dropping from above to a certain extent. So not really practical bike helmet, but this is the one that's approved by the National PTA Association. So this is the one that everyone has to have. And again, if the kids already have an excellent proper bike helmet, then they can't use it. You've got to go and buy one of these, because this is the one that's approved and this is the one that everyone wears. So when you see the kids riding home from school, you know, all in a row, all riding exactly the same bicycle, wearing the same uniform, wearing the same helmet, all looking exactly the same. That's what they do. So the deal, we're lucky to a certain extent, is that this school, as long as the bike conforms to their list of rules, this school is happy for them to ride a bike that is a different brand or whatever. So we're lucky. So we just have to make sure it's all clean, tidy. The tyres are inflated properly, and everything's all clean and tidy. Everything's working. The brakes are working, and the bell's working, and the reflectors are clean. And so that's all we got to do. And then this week they'll have an inspection. And because these bikes aren't approved by the school yet, the kids have to push them to school. They're not allowed to ride them because they're not approved yet, right? So on Wednesday we're going to see lots of first year junior high school kids pushing bicycles to school, and they all will. They'll all push a bicycle all the way to school. No one will ride it. They've got to push it all the way to school, and then if it's all approved and everything's good, they'll be able to ride it home in the afternoon. So just while we're on it too, there's actually a sticker on the bike that has a serial number on it up here, and when you buy your bike, they ask you if you want to register it with the police, and you give them your details, your name and address and everything, and you register the bike. The idea is, if it does get stolen, in the unlikely event that it does get stolen, then the police find it or someone else finds it, they can check the database and get your bike back to you. I have heard myths that it's a law that you have to have your bike registered with the police, but it's not true. You know, the bike that some of you guys would have seen video I've made riding bikes around, there's a bike that I have that came from a firefighter in our family, and it's never been registered. We've got another one that we bought for one of the other kids, it's never been registered. So there's no sort of obligation to do that, it's just more of a registration system to give you a chance to get it back. On that thing too, there's the lock. They've got a locking mechanism on them that they can take the key out and it locks the wheel. But of course, you know, you can still pick the bicycle up and carry it away. But often they don't even bother. When you see people get off their bikes and just walk away, they often don't even bother with locking it. So it just depends where they are, I guess. Where we live out here in the countryside, no one sort of bothers. Someone's lost the other key to this one. We've only got one key to it, so it's a bit of a worry locking it, because you might lose that key too. Someone might. So anyway, that's it. That's the story, the school bicycle story. This one was about, when we bought this a couple of years ago, and there were cheaper ones, but this one was about $300. And the thinking was at the time that if we got a good quality one, that it would last longer, and that it could get passed down to other members of the family if it was a good quality one that lasted. So we spent the $300, and we've looked after it pretty well. So we'll probably get value out of it in the long term, because it's been looked after and it can get passed down. There's cousins and all sorts of people coming after our kids that might be able to make use of it, you know. So anyway, that's it, the school bike story. I think I've covered it all. Just got to finish doing it now. Get it all looking all fabulous so it passes inspection. Anyway, that's more than enough of that. More videos. I'm back. The Japan component of this video is finished. Anybody who's only interested in the Japan perspective, video's finished. However, if there are some other people watching who had a bike in their own country in the past, or still do, and this video made them think about some bicycle related things, it had the same effect on me. Because I grew up in Australia about 100 years ago, and The Australian bicycle experience as a kid was way different from the Japanese experience. I was thinking about the conformity after making that video. I was sitting here cleaning this thing, turned it around to do the other side, and I was sitting here thinking the difference, you know, these guys with all the same bicycle and all the same helmet and all the same everything. I would think in Australia when I was a kid, if you went to the bicycle rack of the school, I would guess there probably wouldn't have been two bicycles the same. You know? And it was sort of like you could see a person's personality, you know. There was one of my mates was from England actually, but he grew up in Australia. His parents were from England. And he was just a very sort of a proper sort of guy, and he had some Puch, I think it was, P-U-C-H. It was an imported bike. It was really expensive. It was always immaculate, you know. I had a bike. I had a bike that had got secondhand from somewhere and spray painted it myself. Right? The unskilled bicycle repairer, and had no mud guards. And if I rode it in the rain, the water and the mud used to shoot up my back and put a big line up the centre of my back. And if it started to rain in the afternoon in summer when it was really hot, because Australia gets a bit hot, you know, in the afternoon, if we got those afternoon storms, we used to jump on our bikes and go down the park and ride around up to our pedals in water in the park, you know. I remember before that bike I had a chopper, and the chopper had you know the small wheel at the front, the big wheel at the back, and the gear lever in the middle, and the sissy bar on the back that stood up. So everyone had different bikes, and we used to work on them themselves, and people had like hybrids, you know. They'd get a wheel off another bike, and they'd get something else, or handlebars off another bike, and had the big chopper handlebars. And some bikes had no brakes. Some bikes had those back pedal thing where you use the chain back pedal and to stop the bike. Some people had no brakes at all. Some bikes had gears. Some bikes had no gears. Some bikes had 5 gears or 10 gears or 15 gears. It was a free for all, right? It was a free for all, and nobody inspected our bikes. I remember we used to have bike chains with a big padlock, and we used to chain our bikes to the bicycle racks, you know, and. But yeah, there was no bike inspections. Thank goodness. No bike inspections, no standards. Nobody cared, you know. The school didn't care, and the police certainly didn't care what our bikes were like, you know. As long as we didn't do anything too radical, they didn't care either. So just the difference, you know. When you come from a background like that, and then you live in a country like this. And some of you guys watching this, I know we've got people watching this that are from all over the world, who live all over the world, but we also have people watching this who are from all over the world but live in Japan now. And those guys often have interesting perspectives on this stuff too, because when you've come from somewhere else and then you come here, you know, to the Japanese people, all this stuff's normal. You know, it's all perfectly normal to them. And they don't see it like we do, you know. And even if you try to explain, I was telling my kids this morning about that bike stuff about Australia, you know, my bike, and I was describing what it was like, and you know, you can describe it, but they don't get it, you know. They don't get it. It just sort of sounds all radical and weird to them. So anyway, just thought I'd share a little bit of nostalgia with you guys. No doubt some of you guys have got some stories to tell about your bicycle things too. It's not over either, you know. The bike, I've still ride a bike here. Haven't made a video on the bike recently, but still ride the bike around. Bike's a great way to get around. Really is. Low impact, good exercise. Yeah, it's a good thing, isn't it? Bikes are good. Like the bikes. So anyway, hopefully some of you other old people, you old people, if there's any old people there, or young people who have interesting bike stories, no doubt this will trigger some. Should be interesting to see what we get. Stories of people's radical bikes. Hey, I just had a thought too. Those of you who are on Patreon with us and social media with us can, if you've got some photos, anybody who's got their photos of their old chopper or their old hybrid bike, sort of like a Frankenstein bike. The one I used to have was like a Frankenstein bike. It was made of parts from all over the place. spray painted dark blue, if I remember rightly, with a can of spray paint. Just sort of covered the bits I didn't want blue and just went, okay, let's go. Let's go on the new blue bike. Anyway, that's more than enough of that. Sorry guys, just had to share that with you. I know there might be one other person still listening who's had some memories triggered. So anyway, now this is for real. More videos coming soon.